The music thumped in my chest, the bass rolling over the sand as people danced around the bonfire. Someone had brought a speaker the size of a car battery, and it blasted throwback hits while everyone laughed, drank, and swayed under the night. Sky. The ocean stretched out beyond us, dark and endless, reflecting the moonlight like a broken mirror. I took a sip of my beer, lukewarm and bitter, but I didn't care. The salty breeze mixed with the smell of burning wood and sunscreen. My best friend Ryan clapped me on the back, grinning. "Dude, you gotta get in the water," he said, eyes glassy from whatever he'd been drinking. "You're at a beach party, and you haven't even touched the ocean." "I'll get in later," I laughed, shaking my head. Nah. He grabbed my wrist and started pulling. A few people nearby noticed and started cheering. "Johnny's finally getting in." I rolled my eyes but let them drag me forward. The cool water lapped at my ankles, then my knees. It felt good after. Standing near the fire, Ryan kept going, wading in up to his waist, and I followed. The waves were gentle, barely more than a soft push against my legs. All right, I'm in," I said. Ryan smirked. "Nah, not yet." Then he shoved. Me. I lost my footing and fell backward, the shock of cold water rushing over me. I came up sputtering, shaking my head. "Asshole," I coughed. But I was laughing. Someone else splashed me, and before I knew it, half the party was in the water. The night air filled with shouts and laughter as we wrestled and dumped each other. My heart pounded in my chest, the thrill of it all buzzing in my veins. Then someone yelled, "Let's swim out to the buoy." It was barely visible in the moonlight, bobbing out there like a ghost. I hesitated, but Ryan had already taken off, so I followed. The water felt different the farther we went, deeper, colder. My strokes became harder, my breathing more ragged. Something brushed my leg. I flinched. It was probably seaweed, but my pulse spiked anyway. I kept swimming, but the cold was sinking into my bones now. My muscles ached. I was almost there, then my foot cramped. A sharp, searing pain shot through my calf, locking it up like a vice. I gasped, sucking in a mouthful of salt water. I tried to kick, to tread water, but the pain was too much. My head dipped under. I struggled, but the more I fought, the heavier I felt. My arms flailed uselessly. My chest burned. I went under again. The muffled sounds of the party faded. My vision blurred, then darkened. Everything became quiet. Everything became still. Then nothing. The pressure around me intensified, and my mind seemed to splinter, like shards of glass scattering in the dark. The voice was still there, its cold presence pressing against my thoughts, but it was no longer asking questions. It was stating facts. "You are dead, Johnny." The words didn't hit me like a punch, but more like a cold wave washing over me, relentless, inevitable. The realization seeped into every corner of my awareness, and suddenly, everything that was me seemed to vanish into the black. I tried to fight, to claw my way back to something, anything, but it felt like my essence was slipping through my fingers like smoke. You're no longer part of the living world. The void was infinite now, stretching beyond my comprehension. I couldn't feel my body, couldn't feel anything. The life I'd known, the people I'd known, it all felt so distant, so far away. I was nothing now, nothing but the echo of a voice that wasn't mine. Then there was a sudden stillness. The voice, the dark presence that had plagued me, vanished. And all that was left was the silence. The unbroken, suffocating silence. I was gone. Time had no meaning. What felt like forever stretched endlessly, like a dark, yawning pit where nothing could ever escape. I couldn't remember if I had a body, or even if I was still me. I just was. And then, out of the black void, something began to shift. Light. At first, it was faint, a flicker at the edge of my awareness, soft and distant. But it wasn't in front of me. It was below, beneath me, pulling at something deep inside. I couldn't say what it was, some fragment of me, some faint instinct. a sense of direction that wasn't quite mine. Slowly, like I was drifting in a current, I began to fall toward it. But as I did, the light grew stronger, brighter. The air, if you could call it air, seemed to thicken with heat. It was too warm. The brightness burned, a suffocating glow that began to scorch what was left of my thoughts. It wasn't just light anymore, it was fire. It wrapped around me, searing my non-existent skin, crackling with intensity. It felt like I was falling, straight into the heart of a flame, an inferno that wanted to swallow me whole. The more I descended, the hotter it got, the brighter it became, and then, a realization that it wasn't a light. It was fire, and I was drifting closer to it, closer to a place that didn't feel like salvation. It felt like damnation. My chest tightened, if such a thing was even possible without a chest. The fire called to me, not with words, but with an overwhelming pull, a promise of something terrifying. Something eternal. I couldn't stop myself from falling. I didn't know if I should stop. The heat, the unbearable brightness, consumed everything as I got closer. I felt like I was being pulled into the very core of hell itself, as if the flames were claiming me, and I had no power to fight back. The fire roared beneath me, its heat pressing against whatever was left of my being. The brightness was unbearable now, not warm like the sun, but scorching, consuming like it was meant to purge me. Then from deep within the inferno, a voice emerged, not like the first. This one was heavier, ancient. It carried the weight of something beyond human understanding, something final. It didn't echo, it cut straight through the flames, through the void, through me. You have been weighed in the balance and found wanting. The words struck with a force beyond sound, beyond meaning. It wasn't just something I heard, it was something I felt. A judgment that rang through the very core of my existence. A deep, overwhelming terror seized me. Not fear of pain or even death. I was already dead. No, this was something worse. I was being cast away. The fire below me flared, rising like a living thing. The heat became unbearable. I could feel it, truly feel it now. It seared into me, branding something deeper than flesh, something eternal. I tried to resist, but there was nothing to hold on to, nothing to fight against. I was falling into the fire, falling into judgment. The air itself trembled with the sound of agony. The closer I fell, the louder it became, chilling, ear-piercing screams of countless voices, all wailing in endless torment. It was a sound I had never heard before, but somehow, I knew it. The cries of the damned. Their suffering clung to the air like smoke, thick and suffocating. It wasn't just screaming, it was desperation, raw and unending. Their voices twisted. Together, an endless chorus of misery, each one distinct, yet blending into something so overwhelming, it made my very soul shudder. Then, beneath the screams, something else. Laughter. Low at first, almost like a whisper, but growing louder, swelling into a chorus of wicked delight. It was inhuman, guttural, distorted, filled with a mockery so profound that it sent waves of dread through me. It wasn't the laughter of men. No, this was something demonic. Something that found amusement in the suffering of souls like mine. The laughter slithered through the air, wrapping around me, taunting, welcoming me. The fire below surged higher, the heat unbearable now, blistering against what little was left of me. I was being pulled down. Into the screams, into the laughter, into hell. The fiery light consumed me as I plunged headfirst into its blinding embrace. It burned through the darkness, searing away the last remnants of the void. And then my body. It was forming, piece by piece. I saw my legs stretching outward, skin knitting itself over muscle and bone. My hands, fingers twitching as they solidified. My chest rose and fell, the familiar ache of lungs filling with air. I was whole again, but at what cost? I wasn't returning, I was still falling. Below me, the fiery pit stretched into eternity. its surface churning like molten rock. It wasn't fire like I'd known on Earth. This burned with a hunger beyond heat, a torment that felt alive. It reached for me with eager tongues of flame, whispering promises of agony. I hit the fire, my skin ignited instantly, my flesh bubbling, peeling, liquefying as 1,000 unseen blades flayed me open. The pain was beyond anything human, beyond nerves or the mind's ability to comprehend. Every second stretched into eternity, every heartbeat an age of suffering. The fire did not just burn, it consumed, eating into my very essence. I tried to scream, but the flames swallowed my voice. I was in hell. The landscape around me was a nightmare made real. Rivers of molten fire snaked through jagged obsidian cliffs, each peak impaling writhing souls that shrieked in ceaseless agony. The sky was a suffocating void of swirling smoke and storm, flashes of blood-red lightning illuminating twisted structures, towers made of bone, archways formed from fused, screaming bodies. The air was thick with sulfur, every breath searing. My throat like inhaling shattered glass. Everywhere, shadows moved, figures hunched, broken, crawling through the ashen wasteland. Some wailed, others laughed, their voices hollow and maddening. Chains clanked in the distance, dragging across unseen horrors. The ground itself trembled beneath me, as though the very pit was alive, hungry for more suffering. 1,000 years passed in a second. Then something massive loomed over the inferno. A hand clawed, monstrous, shot through the flames and clamped around me. The talons dug into my flesh, though I had none left to tear. I was yanked from the fire, my body reconstructing itself in an instant, only to be crushed by the creature's impossible grip. The demon was a nightmare, made flesh. Its body was an abomination of shifting shadows and charred flesh, seared with glowing cracks like veins of molten rock. Its head was a mass of writhing horns, curling and twisting into jagged points, framing a face that barely resembled anything human. 6 burning eyes, black pits rimmed with crimson fire, gazed at me with amusement. Its grin stretched too wide, splitting its face like a wound filled with serrated fangs. Its breath was a hot wind of decay, reeking of brimstone and death. It laughed, a deep, guttural sound that shook the very air. I writhed in its grasp, screaming as the searing wounds on my body pulsed with fresh agony. The demon dragged me through the inferno, walking with slow, deliberate steps, savoring every moment of my torment. Then, without warning, it hurled me into a pit, an abyss so black it devoured even the glow of the fire above. I fell. The darkness swallowed me whole. There was no ground, no walls, no end. I plummeted endlessly, screaming, my voice lost in the void. I had no control, no escape. I was lost. Jesus, please save me. The words tore from my throat, raw, desperate. The last shred of hope I had left. Then, clear. A shock ripped through my chest. Clear. Pain exploded inside me, like my body was being slammed back into itself. Clear. My lungs convulsed. A sudden pressure in my stomach, a violent force shoving upward. I coughed, gagging as water burst from my throat. Fire was gone. The darkness was gone. I was back. The world rushed into focus, a blur of colors, shifting shadows, burning lights. My chest hurt, a deep, raw pain that clawed at my ribs. My stomach twisted, heaving salt water under the wet sand beneath me. The air was thick and humid, the scent of salt and sweat clinging to my skin. The rhythmic crash of waves roared behind me, the tide lapping against the shore. Voices shouting, urgent, panicked. Shapes moved around me, their faces distorted by my blurred vision. The sky above was dark, but streaked with the distant glow of the beach bonfire. A crowd had gathered, their outlines shifting in the flickering light. Someone gripped my shoulder, a lifeguard, drenched in seawater, his hands trembling. His voice was shaking as he called my name. I was alive, but as I gasped for breath, As the burning sensation from the fire still lingered in my chest, I knew I had been there. I had felt it, and no matter how much time passed, I would never forget.